We about to party up in here. Oh yeah, yeah. This how we do. You see we shining, we shining. You see the way that my time be blinding. Know it's a shame how I blow in my lane. Don't know not the same cause the time be climbing. Hey, when it's this I'm the chop man. We be on the yacht popping champagne. Yeah, I live on the road. I do what I do not to live on the floor. And to live is the goal. But when you get hit, then that living is bold. Cause when you get hit, then you live by the code. And we chasing that dream, so we live in that mode. I mean, it'll never change. I done been through several pain. Chat with me now, cause there's more to a name. Take you a seat, this is behind the fame.
Welcome to Behind the Fame, where we get to know the person behind the celebrity name. I'm your host, Lady J. Let's get to know today's guest a little better. Cornelius Hocker is a journalist for WRTV News in Indianapolis. He is a shining example of what it means to defy all odds to become and do the extraordinary. Though very much loved, he was not afforded the same parental help growing up as other kids as it pertained to his education, as both of his parents struggled with mental disabilities. He took his lemons and made lemonade. Being a news journalist for several stations over the years has helped him realize the power he has in choosing which stories he wants to tell that would help bring awareness and change. Cornelius Hocker.
How are you?
Hey Cornelius, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Good. So happy to have you. So for those of you who don't know, if you haven't seen already, I had the pleasure of being interviewed by him in February of this year of 2021. And the interview was awesome. He covered a lot in a very short segment, a lot. So when I tell you he's a pro, he's definitely a pro. For those of you who watch RTV6 News, I know that I do. So it's a pleasure to have you here. You know, I love people that are down to earth, you know, and especially if they have a celebrity attached to their name, celebrity status. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And those are some really, really kind words. I just want to tell everyone, I don't consider myself a celebrity. I know I'm a public figure, but like Lady J said, you know, I'm all about telling stories of other people. And yeah, so I'm not a celebrity, just someone who happens to be on television here in Indianapolis.
Well, look at the humbleness shining through. Well, I'm glad that you see yourself that way, because it's good to reach a certain status and still be able to be humble.
Right. And I think the biggest thing is, you know, for people to know, I understand that it's not like it was whenever Barbara Boyd and the other folks at WRTV were on in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Right.
You know, people aren't watching us at 5, 6, and 11. They may catch us at 6 o'clock. They may catch us at 11. They may just follow us on Facebook and YouTube and our Instagram page. So I understand that it's a different sort of media environment. And so we have to rise to the occasion. So that's why whenever you go to my Instagram page, you can see a lot of the stories I've done. And, you know, you got to meet people where they are, hoping that whenever they're by television, they'll flip to us at 11 o'clock.
Right. So let's talk about your background. So I know that you are from Greenville, Kentucky, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I've been to Kentucky several times, not Greenville, but I've been to Kentucky several times. Awesome state. So tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you grow up? I know that you had a kind of a different upbringing as far as family is concerned. So share a little bit about that with us.
So I am the oldest kid on both sides of my family. More on that here in a second. My mom had me whenever she was 19 and turned 22 days later. Being a teen mom, already a complicated thing. To add on to that, my mom has a mental illness and learning disability. So her mental illness, she was never mean or anything like that. She just did not know how to raise a child. So for instance, you know, she got her first, government check for having a kid. what did she do? She went out and bought me clothes. You know, she wanted to shower me with gifts. So knowing all that, my grandmother and my aunt, they were a big help in raising me as well, you know, steering her and me on the right path. So I was telling Lady J, it wasn't traumatic in the sense that, you know, I never saw my mom drink. I never saw anything like that. But it was, you know, I got to a certain point in school and I realized, oh, I have to do this homework myself because my mom doesn't understand it, you know, and this is like, you know, 12, 13, you know, year old middle school science and English. So that is what led me to have to rely internally on myself a lot, just because my mom couldn't do certain things. And, you know, my grandmother and my aunt, you know, they were getting older. My aunt ended up having a kid. So there were other kids that needed to be raised. So my upbringing was interesting. And so my father, he was around until I was 16. He actually passed away. And I guess that's probably the most traumatic thing that happened to me in my childhood. And 2 weeks later, my aunt's husband, he passed away as well. So all the men in our family died in 2006. My father and my uncle, people who were around always. So I have some very strong women in my family, and kind of makes me tear up a little bit. I guess I haven't said that out loud, but they were really strong. And, you know, I couldn't imagine, because my mom, she's 20 years, you know, older than me. My aunt is like 14 years older. I cannot imagine having to raise kids after, you know, your husband dies. You know, I'm 31. And I couldn't imagine raising a kid now, and I'm in a pretty stable part of my life. So saying all this stuff out loud reminds me that they were very strong. So yeah, I had a good upbringing, and now fast forward 31, I actually did 23andMe, and I found an aunt who was not related to my father, who passed away, and that led me to finding my birth father. And I met him back in January. So there's a whole nother family I'm getting to meet. And I look back at my life, you know, my upbringing, and then, you know, I could be sad that I missed out on this whole nother family that I have. Or I can be happy now that I found them. And, you know, I could be upset at my mom for not knowing, but I mean, I was 19 months. I can't tell you who I had sex with. so knowing that I'm a normal person, whatever normal is, you know, normal mindset. But then knowing that my mom was 19 and struggling with mental illness and a learning disability and didn't have the resources, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, people didn't have resources for that. So knowing that she was going through all that and having never been taught, oh, you should be on birth control, you should make the man wear a condom. You know, I could be upset about a lot of things, but I choose to not be upset. I choose to acknowledge that those things sucked, but then I choose to move forward and be positive. And I think that's why I'm here now. You know, that's why I am where I am now.
So I know that you said that you realized that your mother had a learning disability around the age of 12 or 13, like middle school. So tell me, how did that make you feel? Because I know that, you know, you feel like you're different from the other kids, you know, that your parents are a little bit different. How did that make you feel that your mother had a learning disability and she was not, I'll say, as society would say, as intelligent as most other parents?
You know, as a hormonal 12, 13-year-old, I was sad, I was mad, I was angry, I was frustrated. You know, how come my mom is like this? How come she can't be like other people's moms? And I don't ever think I told her that, because, you know, she wouldn't even now, she would understand, but she wouldn't understand the impact it had on my life. But, you know, as I've gotten older and I look back, she is incredibly strong. She had to deal with so much and was working with so little, you know. Her mom and her father, they divorced whenever she was, you know, 5 or 6. And my grandfather, he was great to me. He died back in 2014. He was great to me, but growing up, he was just the child support dad, see you on holidays, make you a birthday cake, and that was it. So it was truly just my grandmother raising her. And, you know, she came from a family where her mom had several kids. My great grandmother, my grandmother's father died whenever she was 3. So, and small town USA, Greenville, not educated. Not saying you have to go off to college to be educated, but not understanding of the world. So then you look at all that and you realize my mom came from nothing. And, you know, I won't go into too many details, but she is solvent now. That's what I'll say. She is solvent now, and I don't have to worry about her. You know, like besides the oh my gosh, mom, did you get vaccinated? Where I'm at, you know, besides all that pandemic stuff and her health, you know, are you taking your medication? But like, am I afraid that she's going to be homeless? No. So in my teen years, you know, I was frustrated and upset, and you know, probably, and I lashed out, of course, because that's what teenagers do. But now as an adult, I realize, wow, you know, how strong was she to work the system and figure things out for herself.
Right. So, and I know that you were raised, you know, by a man you called dad. Did you know that he wasn't your biological father when you were a kid?
I was aware, because probably whenever I was 7 or 8, we did a DNA test on another man. Thank God he's not my father, because he was ugly. I'm not. I saw him here recently whenever I was back home, and yeah. So I knew I always had this inkling. And then my dad's extended family. So, you know, I had cousins, but these were people that had married my how was it? My dad's father had married a woman, and so it was that woman's family. So my cousins, their great aunt was married to my grandfather. And I know that side of the family talk, because I can remember them saying little remarks to me about my dad. And, you know, as I've gotten older, that makes me think a lot less of those adults. Because, you know, my dad, he also had a learning disability. He was worse off than my mom in that regard. You know, he was learning how to read whenever I was learning how to read. And he struggled because, you know, his mom and his mom was like 14 whenever she had him. So she was sending him back from Mississippi to Kentucky, back and forth. And so, you know, whenever I was 16, I feel it's sad, because I never got to like let him experience my life. But, you know, I think about all these things I've done. And I remember the last time I saw him, I was driving, and he didn't know I'd got my license yet. So like, he's turning a corner, and it's a small town. So of course I run into my dad. So he's turning a corner and I'm turning a left around him, and he looks at me, he's like, "You're driving?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm driving now." And that's my last memory with him. But I feel sad for him that he dealt with so much in his short 46 years. And he never got to experience, you know, having a son like me that, I don't want to say could have helped him, but could have like made his later years so much easier. Yeah. Sorry, I rambled a little bit, but yeah, it's just a lot. Like,
oh no, you're fine.
Yeah, like people never ask me these questions, so I'm always the one asking questions.
Right. And I mean, like I said, it's good to know somebody's background, because you never know what people have endured or what they've gone through. When people see, especially celebrities, and I think that this show is so important, because a lot of people, when they see celebrities, like, "Oh, I want to be like that person," or "Oh, I want to do that," or "Oh," but you don't know what it took for them to get there. Like, they see where you are now, but they don't consider the journey, all of the ups and downs that you had to go through, the challenges, you know, obstacles, adversities, and things of that sort, and how that has shaped you into, you know, the person that you are, and how that impacts your ability to influence other people through your celebrity. So I think that's extremely important. And on top of sharing your personal story, you've gained some lessons along the way, and that can be helpful, you know, to people aside of just telling your story, actually giving them something practical that they can use to help them, you know, in a similar situation. So And I know that you all don't get, especially journalists, anchors and stuff like that. I know that you all don't get asked questions a lot. You're always asking the question.
Right. Yeah.
So, when you turned 16, I know you said that was the age that you started lashing out and things of that sort. Can you share a little bit about what are some of the things that you did to express like your anger, your sorrow, frustration?
Yeah, just arguing, like arguing, cussing them out. Like I cuss all of them out. I was, I was 16, and it was probably like around 12 or 13. I got my last whooping, and like
you was catching the belt like most boys.
I was catching the belt. I was catching the switches, and I remember my grandmother told me to go out and get a switch, and I said no.
Oh, Lord.
And then I realized that doesn't hurt.
That's when you get them hands.
Right. But then I realized that doesn't hurt. So it was probably like 12 or 13. Boys get testosterone, and then it's like, okay, so these women are trying to hit me with a switch. You go get the switch. So it was just a lot of back talking and normal, what I consider, because I did it, normal teenage stuff, that people just did. And I didn't live with my mom for after the age of 12. I wasn't taken away from her. I just chose to live with my aunt because I didn't want to switch schools. So
right.
My aunt and my grandmother unfortunately caught a lot of the blunt of that, but my mom got some of it too. And my father did as well, but not as much, just because they divorced. My father and my mom divorced whenever I was about 9 or 10. When
did you know that you were gay? And how did your family, how did they take that?
I knew I was gay 8 or 9. I just remember I have very distinct memories of very attractive men whenever I was little, noticing them. And my family, it was really interesting. I thought it was going to be the reverse of how it was. So I came out to my aunt during an argument. She said, this is terrible. She said, if you knew how you looked, you'd stop acting like that. And I said, what? Like a faggot? And then I said, because I am. I was like 16 or 17 then. And she cried. And I was like, and I started laughing. It's just like, what? Like, you haven't known, like, you've known me all my life and you're going to cry about this. So that was how I came out to her. My grandmother, we watched Days of Our Lives together. And right around the time that I was, in college and starting to date, there was a legacy character, Will. I don't know if anyone watches Days of Our Lives, probably not. Anyway, there was a
I used to watch it with my grandmother too.
Right. So Sammy's son, Will, had come out, and I was talking to my grandma about it, and it just kind of casually came up. She was like, are you dating anyone? And I said, yeah. And then I told her it was a man, and she said, I always thought so. And it was kind of a mirroring relationship with that character, because his grandmother, Marlena, which I'm sure people know Marlena Evans from Days of Our Lives, she was nurturing like that. And so I think that allowed my grandmother to have, I don't want to say a role model, but to be able to see herself in that way. As, of course, I love you. I've loved you since she said, I've loved you since before you were born. Whenever your mom got pregnant, I was praying for you. So that was good. And then my mom, I told her last, and she immediately was like, so who are you sleeping with? And I'm like, okay, no one currently. I'm talking to you, but later, no.
Right.
She was great, and she has met, they've all met everyone. So my family, they weren't, I didn't experience, going to conversion therapy, being kicked out, nothing like that. And even my extended family, how Black folks are. I go see my great aunt, my grandmother's, her oldest sister, who's still alive, and she's met all my partners, the serious ones, and she's, I think, Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ. I think she speaks in tongues, something like that. But like that doesn't have any bearing on our relationship. Like, she doesn't treat me any differently. I'm able to go get a plate of food at her house whenever I want. I could leave here right now, drive 4 hours, and go knock on her door. And I mentioned my stepmom as well. She's always been great. I actually tell her more stuff about my relationships than I do my family, just because she's a little more, she gets it a little more. But on the family side, I had no trouble whatsoever.
Awesome. And I think I want to point out too to people, because you just said something, you were talking about your great aunt growing up and being in the Pentecostal church and things of that sort. And I want to share with all of our viewers that, there's a difference between being a Christian and being Christ-like. There's a difference between religion and relationship. They are not the same. And so, even if your beliefs, because a lot of people believe in a higher power. It doesn't matter what higher power you believe in, but if you believe in God, and you're a Christian, we know what the word says about a lot of different things, and it's one thing it's okay. You can still love the person and not agree with their lifestyle. Heck, sometimes you don't even agree with your own lifestyle. You're trying to get your own stuff together, but people have the right to live how they want to live, love who they want to live. And you are still required as a true Christian, or somebody that's considered to be Christ-like, to love that person. So, no matter what, because none of us are without fault if you're trying to go like according to the word. So I want to put that out there for those of you who are like, especially for those of you who maybe didn't even know that, hey, Lady J, yes, I'm on here with Cornelius Hocker. Yes, he's, a gay Black man. And yes, we are, cool. And I think he's an awesome person. There's nothing, nothing wrong with that. And I consider myself, I am a Christian. I believe in the word of God. I believe, everything that the word says. And, but I still love people. I love people, period. And I am very good friends with a lot of people from the LGBTQ community. Do I agree with everything that they do? No, I don't agree with a lot of stuff that the people who ain't a part of that community do. Right. None of us are here to please other people. And regardless of whatever you choose to do in life, you are responsible, for that. And you'll, answer for whatever it is, whether you are straight, gay, Black, white, blue, purple, green, whatever you choose is your choice. So, but you don't have to be nasty and mean, to people. So I think that was a very good thing, because you really don't see that with the older generation being so accepting, of that. We don't have a lot of those examples and what it truly means to be a Christian and love people, where they are and what they choose to do with their lives, especially with the older generation. So I commend your great aunt for that, because that's definitely almost non-existent.
Yeah. And I think that there comes a point where, whenever you're old, because she's 76, 77, like what good would it do her right now at this point in life? And I've met so many people who've had bad experiences because their families are religious, whether that's Christianity, they're Islam or Muslims. And it's like, what good does it do? And for me personally, I like to steer clear of religion and politics, because I interview people all the time who are Christians, and they'll say I'm so blessed, and I put that in my story no matter how I feel personally, which I don't have any. I'm indifferent. I don't have any bad feelings about Christianity, because I love going to church growing up. I never felt out of place, and I could go to a church right now and not feel out of place. So
tell me, when did you know that journalism was something that you was interested in and that you wanted to go into, and how did your life story influence or impact that choice?
I went off to college thinking I was going to be a dentist who played clarinet for fun. And I have a few biology credits. I always say a minor, but not close to a minor, because after that first semester, I realized I want to do music. So I have a Bachelor of Science degree in music. But then probably my third or fourth year, there was a TV show on campus, and I thought, I mean, I can do that. And at this time, you know, I, like a lot of people, wanted to be on television, whether it was reality TV or whatever. So I said, well, this is something easy I can do. And I remember someone telling me, you've got it. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was like, okay, sure, I've got it. I'll do this. So that's where on campus, it was called Roundabout You. And we just did, you know, fun campus stories. We interviewed people, you know, I learned video editing. I took a few journalism courses. But then I was on campus one day. This was probably my fourth year. I took 5 years to finish undergrad. My fourth year, walking around in pajamas. And there is this reporter, which I think she was smoking. Which, if you smoke cigarettes, that's fine. But it was 2012 or 2011. And she was shooting the photographer she was working with was shooting some video, and like all annoying people, I asked, can you not put me in the B-roll, like just because? And she was like, wait, you know what B-roll is? And we started talking, and she said something which is so representative of anyone in media. She said, you ought to intern at our station because, you know, you're good looking, you're not too good looking, you're definitely not ugly, but you're relatable, you're good looking. And I thought, okay, I'm in pajamas, walking around campus, but sure. Thank you, white lady who's smoking, telling me I'm good looking. So I interned at that station in Paducah, Kentucky. And that's where I really learned, oh, so every single day I have a story. Every single day, if I'm going to do this, I got to get out in the community and meet people and talk to people. And, you know, that summer I talked to farmers who were dealing with droughts. You know, I was with the reporters, but I was shadowing. I talked to, you know, people. A person was in a building where an older man had a medical emergency and ran through the building in his car. You know, I really got out in the community and learned that, whoa, there's a lot out there, and I have the power to bring these stories and put them, you know, on TV, on social media. And that's where I really decided after Paducah. So I went back, finished my undergrad degree, and then I interned in Nashville, Tennessee, at the CBS station down there. And they do a great job covering local news. And then I graduated, got a job teaching computers at an elementary school, because, you know, you just don't find a job in TV news. I could not stroll into Indianapolis and say, hire me, you know. But then I ended up in Tulsa. I worked in Tulsa for about a year and a half, and then my news director there and my news director here, sorority sisters, Delta Sigma Theta, and we were at the Black Journalist Conference, and I was sitting across from my current news director, and my former one walked by, and I said, Tina, come over here and tell Terry to hire me, because Indianapolis is 4 hours from my family, 4 hours from my fiance's family, different guy. And because his family's from Michigan, and we love it here. So I think that answers the question. When did I know? I knew probably 2012, after interning at a local TV station, and it went from being I want to be on television to I really want to help people and bring stories to the forefront. And you know, I hold people accountable. That's such a cliche, but you know, whenever there's an apartment complex that's doing bad things and not taking care of tenants, well, we're going to keep on doing stories. And now, the health department is taking a complex to court over things that we reported on. Now, I can't be for sure that because of my reporting, something is happening, but it's a hell of a coincidence. So yeah, it went from going back, journalism first felt like, oh, I get to be famous, I get to be on television. And now it's more so a calling that I want to.
Can you share with everyone what encouraging words or lessons would you like to share with the viewers, you know, that you have learned along this journey, you know, in life? And what do you want people to see when they see you, you know, Cornelius Hocker, the journalist?
I want people to take away from this that I'm a regular person like you. You know, I have hopes and dreams. I want to retire early. I want to be able to take care of my family. I am your neighbor who you see at the grocery store. I'm just a community member. I just happen to have a job that gives me a platform to expose things, to show things. And with that comes a great responsibility. And I want them to know I take that responsibility seriously. As for how I want people to, you know, what can they get from my life story and the things I've been through, internal drive. You have to be internally driven. And it's hard. You know, it is hard whenever you live in a disadvantaged area. You know, I've talked to kids who live on the Far East Side. And at 16, whenever my father was dying from, you know, a heart attack, well, they've had friends that have died from being shot, and they have to move their beds away from windows. So, you know, you come from a situation like that, and it's hard, you know, and it's easy for me to say to have internal drive because I've never been through that. But if you don't do it for yourself, no one's going to do it for you, because everyone is dealing with their own stuff. So I think that's the biggest.
Go ahead and share with our viewers how they can connect with you, and how they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so as you know, I work for WRTV, and you can find me on Facebook. It's just Cornelius Hocker, WRTV. And then on Instagram, it's just Cornelius Hocker. There you see a little bit more about my life, but I do post my stories. And then I'm also on Twitter, but Twitter is a dumpster fire. So I retweet things, I like things, and that's about it. And I look for stories on there because there have been some good finds there. And that's just Cornelius at Cornelius WRTV.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Cornelius, for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. I have enjoyed my time with you. You are funny, and your background is definitely, you know, interesting. And I hope that, you know, especially young Black men have been able to, you know, hear your story and see that, you know, no matter what your circumstances are, coming from, and here you are coming from a family with both parents being, you know, mentally challenged, and here you are on TV as a news anchor. I mean, like that is definitely that. Yes. I mean, think about that for a minute, y'all. Think about that for a minute. So, I mean, no matter what your background is, like you said, you have that internal drive, you are able to accomplish just about anything. So, thank you for being my guest. So that is our time, everybody. Thank you for joining me and my amazing guest today. Remember, there's more to a celebrity's name than fame. Until next time.